Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, Retired with a Full Heart at Home. I have something really fun for you guys today. I'm going to show you how to calculate your biological age. Woo, isn't that cool? And I'll also get into a little bit what I attribute my biological age to. And calculating your biological age is simpler than you think. You don't need a fancy kit or pay somebody else to do it. How's that for a great DIY? So there's only 9 parameters you need off of a standard blood panel. So if you have your blood test results available, go grab them and we'll use them to calculate your biological age. And don't worry about how long it's been since that last test was taken, just as long as you know the date and how old you were when those results were taken. And if you don't worry about missing anything on those blood panels, because I'll show you how to work around it. You can still get some great information off of it and then fill in later. And last, if you just want to sit and watch how to do this and then go do it later, I'll link a spreadsheet below that you can use to do this yourself. While you're grabbing those blood test results, we're going to use the PhenoAge Model, which was developed by Dr. Levine et al. And is a highly respected model for determining biological age. And it's aging at a cellular and organ level. So it's not a DNA test, it's exclusively done off of blood biomarkers. And it's been statistically validated and verified, and it is highly predictive of mortality. So if you are just 1 year older in your biological age than you are in your chronological age, you are 9% more likely to die of all causes. And you're 9% more likely to die of age-related disease. Your cardiovascular risk goes up 10%. Your cancer risk goes up 7%. Alzheimer's risk goes up 4%. Your diabetes risk goes up an astounding 20%. And your risk of chronic lower respiratory disease goes up 9%. The good news is your biological age is modifiable, and we're also going to talk about that as well. My husband and I recently did a Function Health blood and urine panel. We got 100 plus biomarkers. We did the cancer screening and the Alzheimer's genome testing, and I did an unsponsored video on that experience if you want to check it out. The insights we got from Function Health were amazing, and I do recommend it, but it was pricey. And one thing that really surprised me was the biological age calculation. Again, I said mine was 15 years younger than my chronological age, but my husband's was 2 years older than his chronological age. And that really set me on a journey to find out how biological age was calculated. I wanted to know what wizardry was going on behind the curtain to get this biological age calculation. And boy, I really show my age now by using that. I think that's even older than my generation. But seriously, how can you know how to improve your biological age if you don't know the inputs that go into it or how it's calculated? And so let's get started calculating biological age using the PhenoAge model. Okay, here we go. So with your blood tests in front of you, you're going to want to find the albumin, the creatinine, and pardon me if I say these wrong, glucose, high sensitivity C-reactive protein, your lymphocyte percentage, your mean corpuscular volume or MCV, the red cell distribution width expressed in percent, your alkaline phosphatase ALP, your white blood cell count, and of course know the date the test was taken, so you know your chronological age the date that test was taken. And again, like I said, if you don't have all of those in your blood work, don't worry about it. What I suggest you do is pick a nominal value mid-range, and I've got the nominal ranges listed in pink below, and just substitute that in and make a note that you used a stand-in value. And then you can talk to your physician about getting that testing the next time you have blood work done. And if you don't have glucose, maybe consider changing doctors. No, I'm just kidding. But you probably want to just put in a nominal value for right now, and then you can actually purchase a glucose finger stick kit from Walgreens or CVS or Walmart, and they're really inexpensive. Like, you can probably get one for about $20. So you might want to take your fasting glucose in the morning after not having eaten for about 12 hours, and then you can plug that number into the model. The next step is to convert your biomarker from whatever your units your lab reported it into the units that are required by the PhenoAge model. So for example, my albumin was provided to me by the lab in grams per deciliter, and the model wants grams per liter. So you have to multiply the lab provided number by 10 to get it in grams per deciliter. And you do that for each parameter, just making sure that the units are correct. And for my conversions, I've included it in the table in pink below. And if you have if your lab returned a biomarker with some units that are different than here, you can just simply Google convert X to Y, and it'll tell you exactly how to calculate it. That's what I had to do, because honestly, I had no idea how to convert micromoles per liter from milligrams per deciliter. So I Googled it and I was able to find it. The only tricky-ish part of this is that you have to take your high sensitivity C-reactive protein, your HSCRP, and the model wants it in milligrams per deciliter, but it also wants you to take the natural log of that number. The natural log button on your calculator, if you can't find that, it's in the spreadsheet that it'll calculate that for you. And step 3 is to just multiply all your biomarkers by the fixed multiplier in the table. So just take each one, multiply it by, take each converted number, multiply it by the multiplier, and put it in the right-hand column. Okay, and once you're done with that, you've multiplied everything by its multiplier, just add them all up. So my total was 10.8587. So just add yours up. Okay, once you've got your, what I'm calling the weighted sum of your biomarkers, let's pause here for a second. If you're math averse, and I totally get it, we don't need to go further. You can just look up your PhenoAge from your weighted sum of your biomarkers in the table below. So remember, I said mine was 10.8, so I would look on the x-axis for 10.8, go up to the red curve, and then go over to the PhenoAge. And again, my biological age, or PhenoAge, was 43.7. And my husband's was, the weighted sum of his biomarkers was 12.5. So his PhenoAge, or biological age, was 62, I think. So if you don't want to go further with calculating, you can use this. And if you do want to go further and figure out how to actually calculate the PhenoAge for yourself, I'm going to go through that really quickly on the next couple of slides. But before we leave this slide, I do want you to notice that the biological age goes up linearly. So I'm giving it to you straight. No pun intended. It goes up linearly with your weighted sum of your biomarkers. Okay, so now for you diehards that want to calculate it yourself, good for you. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take that weighted sum of your biomarkers that was on the x-axis of the previous plot, and we're going to just subtract 19.907 from that. So here's an example of mine. So if I take 10 and I subtract 19, I have negative 9.0483. Okay, so now is where it gets just a little bit more challenging, you're going to want to calculate something we're going to call M, which is in this equation here. So you took that value that we calculated in the last step, plug it in here, and then calculate M. And for me, the value of M was 0.02293. Hopefully you're still with me. And this is the last step. You're there. Woohoo! So now you're going to calculate your PhenoAge. So in the last step, you calculated M, and now you're going to plug M into this formula here, where ln is the natural log, and you should get your PhenoAge from that step. Mine was 43.7. And while you're doing that, I'll just mention that for me, this matched what Function Health reported exactly. Now you can go online and you can put those 9 biomarkers, the albumin, all the other parameters like glucose and chronological age. You can put those into an online calculator, and I did do that and I can link some of the calculators below. But when you do that, you really don't have any insight into how the model is using those inputs. At least you know what the inputs are, but you don't know how they're using them. So I wanted to go through this calculation with you guys so you would see exactly how each of those biomarkers was weighted and how they contribute to your biological age. So if you notice in this table, we went through all of this. We did the multiplier, we summed your weighted biomarkers, and we got your number, and you could either pick it off the plot or continue to calculate your biological age or your PhenoAge. So and we talked about how linear it is with the sum of the weighted biomarkers. So the goal would be then to lower the sum of those weighted biomarkers to bring your age down. So as you lower the sum of the weighted biomarkers, your age comes down. And you can see here in the notes by the last column, which direction you have to move these biomarkers in to get the desired result. So some of them might have been obvious, like glucose. Of course, you're going to want to lower your glucose to lower your biological age. But for example, because it's an inverse relationship with albumin, you actually want your albumin to increase. So things like that might not be obvious if you were just, and who wants to play whack-a-mole with an online calculator, trying, sort of stabbing at each result to see how much change you have to make in order to, affect your biological age. So now you know. And so once you've done that, now you can really start talking to your doctor about specifics. This is the part of the video where I'm going to stand back and say, I am not a medical doctor, so I'm not here to give any advice about that. This is just a math exercise for me to see, how the modeling was working. But, each one of these biomarkers means something about your body. And I've just copied some of the notes that I had on the biomarkers from doing the function health testing about what those markers indicate in terms of health for, whether it's targeting your kidney function, your autoimmune function, your liver, things like that. And then on the other side of it, target numbers. So in my particular case, my biological age is already 15 years younger than my chronological age, so there's not a whole lot I can do. There are some things I can do, though, that I discovered. And I have one out of bounds biomarker on my mean corpuscular volume. So if I was able to simply just bring that down into the nominal or optimal range, I would improve my biological age, and the same with my red cell distribution width. So those two things are things that I would like to target, and I would target these values, bringing them, further into range, and that could actually bring my biological age down from 43.7 to 39.4. And so it's an exercise like that. Now, I really want to talk to my doctor before I start trying to get too detailed in terms of what supplements to take or things like that. But open source literature indicates that maybe if I took vitamin B, folate, iron, and B12, that would have a positive impact on these biomarkers. So I'm super excited about that. So what do I attribute to my biological age being 43? Boy, was I shocked. I mean, I opened that with one eye closed because, to be honest with you, it was a shocker for me. My nutrition has always been pretty, I'm going to just say poor. I mean, I've really tried over the years to get better and better, but you know, I'm definitely have had my fair share of fast food, junk food. I love ice cream. I can't have it in the house because it'll just be gone quickly if it is here. And I never really, adhered to a really healthy diet for long stretches of time. And I also never took any nutrition supplements. So, nutrition, that can't be the reason. Hydration, I've never been able to drink as much water as you're supposed to. I grew up in the 70s. I am definitely a soda child, and so I drink way too much soda now. I've drank diet soda since I was about 14 years old. I'm not bragging about that either, but I wasn't drinking sugary drinks. But I wasn't drinking, the things you really should be, like tea and water, things like that. Sleep. And I retired 2 years ago, and until I retired, I had extremely poor sleep. I was running on fumes most of the time. Now, it's been 2 years since I retired, and since I did retire, I have been able to get, a full night's sleep, 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. Stress, even in retirement, we've had a fair amount of stress. In previous videos, I mentioned we sold our family home. If you've ever been through that, it's a very emotional and exhausting process. We had a lot of work to do to the house before we could sell it, and then we bought a condominium, downsized to a condominium that needed a ton of work. So it was 2 back-to-back renovations and the condo renovation was very stressful because, it's a condo. We had our last inspection like the 3rd week in January, and we did our blood work in early February. So I was probably still on a stress high from all that work. And exercise. Now, this is my guess as to how I got the biological age score I did. I have always been good about exercising, in particular running on a treadmill and running hard, and running long distances and really pushing my peak heart rate up into, pushing my heart rate up into the peak zone and keeping it there for 30 minutes or more per session. So I've done, pretty extensive cardio, particularly since about 2015. So that, of all the things, it's got to be that, because there really isn't anything else that I can think of that I did that would have wound the clock back by that much. And a little bit contrasting with my husband, he likes sugar. He's always drank Coke, not Diet Coke. He's always slept well. He's always slept an adequate number of hours. No, I shouldn't say that. Never mind. I'm going to stop talking about my husband. Anyways, his philosophy on exercise was a little different than mine. He tends to lift weight. Our diets have been the same. If I have to say, I think it's the cardio. That's my only guess. So how do I interpret my biological age of 43? Actually, to be honest with you, I'm not sure. Every time I think about it, I have more and more questions. But, because I don't really know what that means, that I have a biological age of 43. I did find that data I shared with you about being 1 year over, your biological age being 1 year over your chronological age, and what that did to your risk of, mortality causes. including all-cause mortality, but I haven't really found any data yet that speaks to how your risks change if you're younger than your biological age. I guess I'm just satisfied that it is, and I know how to optimize it if I want to. That said, plenty of 43-year-olds pass away from heart attacks and strokes, unfortunately, and my function health test results did show that I have markers for atherosclerosis and cardiovascular disease, that I cover in the video I did on the function health panel. So I am going to follow up with a cardiologist. And so anyways, I don't know how to interpret it. Got more questions than I got answers. But I'm not going to lie, it's kind of cool to see it be low. I certainly like that better than it being high. Speaking of my husband, poor guy. Here are his results. So his weighted sum was 12.5, which puts him at this point on the curve, and that puts him just a little bit over 61.6 years, which is about 2 years over his chronological age. So the main biomarkers that I think kind of pushed him up higher was his glucose, which you can see is 103 milligrams per deciliter, his C-reactive protein, his inflammation marker was a lot higher than mine, and some of his red blood cell and numbers are a little out of whack there. So anyways, I think that accounts for his score. But I just love talking to him about all of this. We're both really proactive. We're both enthusiastic. We're both extremely positive about making positive changes. What's he going to do? He's lowering his glucose a lot. He's cut out sugar. He's exercising and trying to up his muscle mass so that he has a good glucose sync with his muscles. He's trying to lower his C-reactive protein and increase his red cells. So he's taking vitamin D, omega-3, fish oil, B12, folate, and he just recently started taking NAD and glycine, and I'm not going to get into that in this video for sure. A lot of that's a little still over my head, but the NAD and glycine is there's some really good data out there that suggests that it lowers glucose and inflammation. So he's trying that. Well, I hope you had some fun. I hope you learned something. I know I did. But please don't take me or anything I might have said in this video as medical advice. My goal is simply to share with you, like you were sitting at my kitchen table, something I learned, something I thought you might find really cool and want to talk about. But when it comes to your health, you want to actually just really rely on your doctor and go back to them with questions that this might have spawned for you. I love the fact that we now know what goes into the biological age and how it's calculated and maybe how to manipulate it a little bit so that you get a better number next time. And I just want to remind you, PhenoAge is only one method, based on the blood biomarkers. There are other biological age estimators that use like DNA methylation and things like that. So have fun with those other methods. And I just think that it's so cool when you take your health into your own hands and lead your own ship, so to speak. And I always say you can't manage what you don't track, or you certainly can't manage what you don't understand. So I feel like I can manage my own health better for having done this exercise for myself, and I think my husband feels the same exact way. And so anyway, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. If I can answer them, I will. And if I can, I'll let you know that too. I'll get a little nervous about, this type of content in some ways. But I hope you did find it helpful, fun, and I hope you stay well, and I hope I see you next time. Oh, I shouldn't say that. Never mind. I'm going to stop talking about my husband. Anyway.